Hey everyone, in this small tutorial I would like to go about the map method for collections in Swift. I started out setting up a small data model by having various developers which earn a salary, have a title and work in a particular field. These are just random numbers, so please do not use them as any form of reference. Many example tutorials work as follows. You use the collection and call the map method on it. As you can see in the auto-completion, the map method expects some form of closure, which seems to have kind of a complicated method signature. However, in the examples you see online, for the most part, a simpler approach is used. You are not using parentheses, you are directly using the curly brackets and do the following. Within the curly brackets, you are using $0 to reference each element within the collection. So in our case, we are going to give a pay raise to each of the developers like this. You're referencing the salary property and multiply it by 1.10, meaning you give a pay raise of 10%. Of course, you need to assign the result of the map method to a new array. When we print it, the result is simply a new collection of the increased salaries. This implies that automatically this closure is actually used as a return value to fill the new collection. Of course, this is a nice and easy way to do it, and I think it's comprehensible enough. However, to make the example full-fledged, I would like to define the closure exhaustively, use the closure within the map method, and later on provide an advanced example to actually illustrate the map method further. Okay, so let's get rid of this stuff. And what I want to start with is use the auto-completion to show me how the closure is supposed to look like. I will comment that out just to make further adjustments more easy, because otherwise the playground will complain. So let's define my new closure more exhaustively. So a closure looks like this. It has to be within curly brackets. It needs to have parameters. In our case, we use the closure for operations on the developer struct. The parameter needs to be within parentheses. The parameter needs to be within parentheses, and we do not need to name this particular parameter. And our return value needs to be a new developer struct. We need the in keyword, and now we can define the closure body. Let's see whether I can make it a little more sexy to look at. So now we can define the closure body. And what I want to do now, as I said, I want to increase the salary of each developer by 10%. So I first define my salary increase. Then I will use it by creating a new developer instance, which I will directly return. As I said before, the return value needs to be a new developer, since that's how map is expecting the closure to work. So this is a more exhaustive approach, but what we got here is simply we will now get a new array of developers that have an increased salary as opposed to an array of increased salaries. So when I now call the map function, and print the result. There we go. Just fix the little invalid character issue, and that's the result. As you can see below, we now have a new array with new developer instances, which all have updated salaries. Yeah, the last one from 60K to 66K as a senior in Java. Okay, yeah, that is a more exhaustive approach for using map, and now I will go over to another advanced example where simply the closure we are using is more complex than what I just did. Initially, we had the very simple approach using a closure directly and using the $0 shortcut to reference the developer objects. And now I created my own more custom closure, which uses the developer reference in a different way. I cannot use the $0 shortcut within my custom closure, since the shortcut is only provided when you use the special syntax for the map function, meaning if you omit the parentheses and directly use the curly bracket, as I demonstrated earlier. So let's get rid of it and make the example work again. So now I will go over a more complex example of the map method. For this, I enhanced the data model a little bit by adding a name for each developer, as well as adding a property called employed, which determines whether the developer is still employed or not. In this example, Max Payne is not employed anymore because there was a minor incident with his family, so he was let go. Okay, so why did I do this? I did do this because now I want to extend the closure which I was using before to not just increase the salary, but increase the salary of a developer in case he is employed. Because if he's not employed anymore, he won't get a raise. So that's why the closure we are going to write will be more exhaustive. Okay, so let's start. I will again call it update salary closure, and the syntax is of course the same as before. There's one thing we need to change in the closure's signature. The return type is not developer anymore, as based on our logic, a developer will be returned with an increased salary or not, meaning that developer will now become an optional. The salary increase will be identical. However, we are going to add a guard statement beforehand that checks whether the developer is still employed or not. So if the developer is not employed anymore, nil gets returned because the developer will not get a salary increase. Okay, so the logic will be pretty similar than before. So we are still going to return a new developer. We're going to call the map method with our new closure. Store the result in updated defs. And now we are going to print our updated defs array. Actually, to make this example a little more comprehensible when it comes to looking at the output, what we are going to do is we are going to print all this information in a for loop. And what I actually added also to the developer struct is a description method. I added this method just to print the most important information and to make it more readable for you. The playground is warning me because in case the def variable is nil, executing the statement will not work. So it's asking me to do nil coalescing or do something else to fix it, which I will do this way. So in this way, we are going to get some form of information that one of the developers is missing or how many. So in this case, we will get an information about that a developer is missing because he's not employed anymore. So let's execute it. I can actually increase it. Nice. Do it like this. we have 5 developers that got a salary increase. We get 1 developer who is not employed anymore. So this actually makes me aware of an issue, meaning that the map function does include nil values into the array, which needs to be considered in our example, as I did, adding this nil coalescing statement here. So that's why I would like to do some bonus here, which will allow us to get rid of this nil. And what I'm going to do is simply changing map to compatMap and see what's going to happen. The playground is already complaining that why do we have this optional operator here? The updated devs array will not include a nil value anymore because the actual type of the updated devs array does not contain any optional anymore. So this is a result of the variation of the map method. It's compatMap, which doesn't allow, or basically it gets rid of nil values that may come out of this closure. And that's why I can simply remove a question mark as well as this nil coalescing operator, execute it, and now we only get 5 developers as opposed to our placeholder string we used to show that an employee is not employed anymore. Yeah, that is pretty much it. I hope I could make this map example a little more descriptive as opposed to using this shortcut always, which I find mostly in other YouTube tutorials. Let me know if you liked it or not. Thanks for watching.